Live from Citizen TV, this is Tonight with Sawa Gituku.
Hello there, thank you for choosing Citizen TV on this 5th day of February 2025. And tonight on Data Point, we are reflecting on what's just about to happen to Kenyan pay slips in the country because the NSSF third implementation of the new rate continues on the 20th of February 2026. The pay slips will be reading something different because the NSSF deductions of 6% will have taken a different angle. And in regards to that, the upper limit of the resources to be subjected to 6% will have risen to 108,000, up from 72,000 of what is the current rate. And as we talk about that, then 6% of that will be a maximum of 6,480 shillings as a deduction for all salaried Kenyans. And we'll be talking about the details of that and how far it affects, especially if you also look at how much money must be paid to the NSSF and how much can be invested differently. And of course, tonight the News Gang is back with a look at major developments over the last few days. But first, here are the top stories tonight. Changes at the IEBC. Electoral Commission bypasses 2 deputy CEOs and names Director of Electoral Operations Moses Ledama Sunkuli as acting CEO. Picking sides, Ruth Odinga rallies behind embattled ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna amid growing internal rifts over party funding and management.
God of angels come through for us. I may not even see your remains, but I'm convinced that I have buried you. Finding
closure without remains, a family whose kin died in the Russia-Ukraine war holds burial rituals without a body amid unanswered questions.
I, Marjan Hussein Marjan.
Tonight on News Gang, inside the order and disorder at IEBC, ODM, UDA, Azimio and United Opposition. It's a pre-election omnibus. And our sign language interpreter is Wilson Ochuka. Now, tonight, we begin with changes at the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, IEBC. Moses Ledama Sunkuli has been appointed acting Chief Executive Officer and Commission Secretary effective immediately. Sunkuli, who currently serves as the Commission's Director of Electoral Operations and Voter Registration, will act in the role for 6 months or until a substantive CEO is appointed. And as Seth Olale now reports, the Commission's move bypassed 2 Deputy Commission Secretaries, Obadia Keitani and Ruth Kulundu, in the latest shakeup.
As the countdown to the 2027 general election ticks closer, Anniversary Towers has been a hive of activity all week, with one boardroom meeting following another. Meetings that led to the sudden exit of Marjan Hussein Marjan as Chief Executive Officer. And just 48 hours later, IEBC has named a new acting CEO. In a statement, the Commission announced the appointment of Moses Ledama Sunkuli as the acting Chief Executive Officer and Commission Secretary, effective immediately. IEBC says Sunkuli brings extensive experience and deep institutional knowledge to the role. He will serve in an acting capacity for 6 months or until a substantive Chief Executive Officer is appointed. Questions remain, however, over why 2 senior Deputy Commission Secretaries, Obadia Keitani and Ruth Kulundu, whose terms are set to end in early 2027, were not considered for the role. During a breakfast prayer, IEBC Chairman Erastus Edung Ethekon said the changes are part of efforts to ensure a seamless transition while upholding the highest standards of service delivery to Kenyans.
So we've made those changes and we'll still make more. We will make sure that with the support of a reputable institution or firm that has the human resource experience, they can be able to guide us.
Until his appointment as the acting chief executive officer and commission secretary of IEBC, Moses Ledama Sunkuli's previous role was director, electoral operations, a position he held since 2022. Ledama's role was to oversee the logistics and technical execution of national electoral processes, a job which saw him honored and recognized for his performance during the 2022 general election. Between 2018 and 2022, Sunkuli was the voter registration manager at IEBC, tasked with the registration, maintenance, and verification of the National Register of Voters and progressive inclusion of Kenyans in diaspora in the electoral process. In the period between 2015 and 2018, Sunkuli was the IEBC County Elections Manager in Elgeyo Marakwet, where he managed county-level electoral operations, stakeholder engagement, and field administration. The electoral administrator, with over 16 years of experience in democratic governance and election management, has a Master of Business Administration in Strategic Management from Kenyatta University and Bachelor of Education Arts from Moi University. The acting Chief Executive Officer and Commission Secretary of IEBC attained a Strategic Leadership Development Program at the Kenya School of Government after securing a Diploma in Business Administration at the Kenya Institute of Management. According to the law, the acting Chief Executive Officer and Commission Secretary of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission enjoys executive powers such as hiring and firing secretariat staff with consultation of the commissioners. The CEO position fell vacant after Marjan Hussein Marjan resigned after a mutual agreement to terminate his services. Seth Olale, Citizen TV.
Kisumu Woman Representative Ruth Odinga says the government is funding the ODM Linda Ground rallies with the aim of controlling the party, which is split over support for President William Ruto's re-election bid. This comes as the ODM party fired back at retired President Uhuru Kenyatta for effecting changes at the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition, saying the former president overstepped his mandate in overseeing what the party termed as irregular changes. Emmanuel To reports.
I can state authoritatively here that the money and the resources you see being spent in those ODM rallies, the so-called underground, those monies are not coming from ODM headquarters.
Where are they coming from?
You will ask them.
It's a statement made by ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna during an exclusive interview with Citizen TV's Explainer show that has stirred controversy far and wide. Kisumu Woman Representative Ruth Odinga, who took to her social media platforms, coming to the defense of Sifuna, calling out those who have been attacking him as hypocritical cowards. Ruth, sister to the late Raila Odinga, the former ODM party leader, questioned the source of the millions of shillings being funneled into the ODM Linda Ground rallies led by the party's pro-broad-based faction. The woman representative raised concerns over the sponsors of these events, which have seen large sums spent on choppers, big tents, and ODM-branded t-shirts and capes. Ruth further claiming the government was in fact bankrolling the rallies in order to control the show and muzzle opposition voices to the two-term chorus. The Kisumu County Woman Representative concluding by casting doubts on President William Ruto's ability to hold his end of the bargain in the ongoing pre-election pact with ODM, saying he had failed to implement the 10-point agenda he signed with the former Prime Minister, the late Raila Odinga, last year. The statement comes 2 days after Sifuna stated that the party, which is reeling from a 12 billion shilling debt, had not drawn any funds from its accounts since November last year.
The last money we expended as ODM officially was for the celebrations in Mombasa, and it was a fraction of what we saw there.
This comes as the ODM party, through a letter signed by the executive director Oduoro Ngwen, dismissed the recent changes to the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition political party effected by Azimio Council Chairman retired President Uhuru Kenyatta as null and void for lacking inclusion of all the constituent Azimio parties. In a letter addressed to the Registrar of Political Parties, John Cox Loriana Coe, the party wants the decision by Kenyatta frozen and suspended, maintaining the party leader of the Orange Democratic Movement, Dr. Oburu Oginga, was not consulted in the decision as per the Azimio deed of agreement. Emmanuel Toh, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Now, talk of compensation for victims of police brutality took center stage on Thursday as the Committee for the Implementation of the 10-Point Agenda began its nationwide public participation sittings. Speaking in Kisumu, participants called for expansion of the compensation scheme to cover those affected by the 2007-2008 post-election skirmishes. And as Laura Otieno now reports, the government also came under sharp criticism for alleged opulence in the various empowerment programs held across the country.
With barely a month remaining until the Committee on the Implementation of the 10-Point Agenda winds up its mandate, a section of Kenyans have expressed dissatisfaction on the implementation status. The government came under fire over opulence, with members of the public citing instances where leaders have been dishing out colossal amounts in fundraisers. Point 6 on the 10-Point Agenda on the compensation of all pending claims of protest victims also featured where victims of the 2007-2008 post-election skirmishes called for inclusion. Committee members called out a section of the political class for disparaging them and their mandate, singling out ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna over his recent remarks on their alleged poor performance.
Because he has never consulted us, where are you? How is the progress? What have you achieved so far? He goes to the media and says they have done this committee 0. He rated us 0. It's very unfortunate, a senior member of ODM.
So even as we proceed to Singapore through Malaysia, let us also build Kenya to the point that even those countries can begin to admire. We have the capacity. We might just need to coordinate a little bit more. We might have to bring into face the sink and the psyche that we have as Kenyans to get there.
The committee will conduct public participation across the country before issuing a final report in March. Laura Otieno, Citizen TV.
President William Ruto has hit back at critics accusing him of misleading Kenyans on his government's performance. Speaking in Malindi, Kilifi County, during the disbursement of 126 million shillings to more than 5,000 youth under the Nyota program, the president insisted his administration has delivered on its promises. Defending the initiative, President Ruto described the Nyota program as a game changer in tackling youth unemployment in the country, as Gatete Njoroge now reports.
In his continued regional tours to disburse millions of shillings to young people under the Nyota program, President William Ruto landed in the coastal region with goodies. The head of state was in Malindi, Kilifi County, where 5,040 youth drawn from 60 wards across Lamu, Kilifi and Tana River counties gathered to receive Nyota Startup Capital.
22,000.
President Ruto used the occasion to hit back at opposition leaders who have accused his administration of failing to deliver on its promises.
Mimi nilitoa ahadi. Wengine walikuwa wanasema huyu Ruto anasema uongo. Muko hapa leo ama hamuko? Hii pia ni uongo. Kuna watu hawana maono, hawana mpango, hawana sera, ni vitimbi, ni chuki, ni ukabila, ni ubaguzi. Hiyo ndio trademark yao. Lakini Kenya hii, kwa mapenzi ya Mungu, inshallah tunaibadilisha hatua kwa hatua tukisonga mbele.
While defending the Nyota program, the head of state described it as a key solution to the country's unemployment crisis, revealing that up to 820,000 youth are targeted to benefit from job training, business startup capital, and digital skills development. He said the initiative complements other job creation avenues rolled out by his administration, including affordable housing, kazi maju, opportunities in the blue economy, digital jobs, and expanded recruitment across the public service.
We want inclusivity. We want every young person, irrespective of their background, irrespective of the corner of the country, how remote your village is, you must get an opportunity like every other young person in Kenya who live in our cities, who live in our towns, who live in our villages. We must give them equal chance to participate in this program.
Leaders at the event hailed the government's plan to grant tax relief to Kenyans earning below 30,000 shillings, saying the move will go a long way in boosting household purchasing power.
Malengo ya mradi ni kuhakikisha kwamba tunaongeza nafasi ya kazi kwa vijana, tunaongeza nafasi ya ajira, tunaongeza ile utaalamu wa vijana.
Wale wataweza kuhakikisha pesa yao wametunza, ring fence vizuri, na wana biashara ambao wameanzisha ambayo itawasaidia, wanataka kuongezwa pesa. Hiyo pesa umepewa na Nyota ndio itakuwa security yako ya kupewa wezesha fund uendelee upanue biashara.
From Malindi, President Ruto proceeded to Mtwapa, where he launched the Mtwapa Mini-City Affordable Housing Project. Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV.
To another story now, residents of Kirinyaga and Kericho counties have weighed in on the government's plan to sell out of its stake 15% at Safaricom shares to Vodacom. At a public participation session, they raised strong concerns over transparency and accountability, warning that this sale must not become a backdoor plot to mislead Kenyans or fuel corruption. Crispin Otieno reports that many are now questioning whether their views will truly shape the final decision.
It is, in fact, the government's plan to sell 15% of its Safaricom shares continues to spark mixed reactions across the country.
Having gone through
today, residents of Kericho and Kirinyaga counties had their turn to voice concerns and opinions.
In this public participation.
In Kericho, the public meeting was convened by Parliament's Finance and Planning Committee alongside the Committee on Public Debt and Privatization at a local county venue. While some residents supported the proposal, many urged amendment and clear safeguards to ensure the sale does not undermine transparency or public interest.
We are saying the funds coming out of the sale of Safaricom shares should be used strictly for intended purpose.
So we totally agree and accept the President's move to see that the funds that are going to help the country move forward is going to be given through the Safaricom shares.
The chairperson of the National Assembly Budget Committee, Kimani Kuria, says he is encouraged by the high turnout.
When they are concerned that development that has been done by such initiatives raised before has only going to benefit a few parts of this particular country.
However, a different picture emerged in Kirinyaga County, where residents voiced strong opposition to the proposed sale. At the forum held in Kerugoya town, residents demanding full disclosure and assurances that their views will not be ignored once the consultation process ends.
These people are trying to overrule us or to to use our poverty. Kama ikiwa tumefika kule mwisho hatuwezi tukakopa tena.
Ile soko ambayo inaweza leta pesa nzuri kwa Nairobi Stock Exchange. Kwa nini msikiwatilie? Mnasema negotiating. Hiyo ni nini?
The government currently holds a 30% stake in Safaricom, with the proposed 15% sale expected to finance multi-billion shillings development projects. As the public participation exercise rolls out across the country, many Kenyans are demanding guarantees that their views will be reflected in the final policy decision. Crispino, TNO Citizen TV.
Clashes broke out between police and traders in Rai, Nairobi, after authorities attempted to evict them from a road reserve to allow a Kenha contractor to proceed with works. Traders blocked the eastern bypass in protest, insisting they will not relocate until a new market is constructed. They accused land grabbers of taking over land earmarked for the market. Another group alleges there is a coordinated scheme by powerful individuals to seize the land. Willie Lusige was there.
This was the scene along Kangundo Road and the Eastern Bypass in Rai on Thursday morning as police struggled to restore traffic following overnight clashes. Traders resisted police efforts to evict them and move them to a proposed market site, a move authorities say would allow Kenha to continue construction of a sewerage system in the area.
Sasa usiku wa saa 6 tukakuja kubomolewa na hawakutuambia hata jana tutoe vitu zetu. Wametuharibia vitu zetu zote. Mtuambie Rai soko iko wapi?
The traders blocked the Eastern Bypass and Kangundo Road, paralyzing traffic and prompting police officers to use batons and tear gas to disperse the crowds.
Umesikia ati wananchi wanasaidia serikali kujenga soko? Hapana, ni Kenya tu. President wetu wanajengeanga watu soko kila town. Mbona kujangi Rai tujengee soko? Asemi ametenga hii anatenganga, atutengee soko.
Police later withdrew, halting the eviction exercise as traders maintain they will not vacate, claiming that nearly 60 acres of land set aside for the market have been illegally occupied and left undeveloped, contrary to President William Ruto's campaign pledge to build them a market.
Wameajiria wakora wamechukua soko. Hawa mama ni wakongwe. Wakitoa wale wakora soko, watu wa Rai ni wazuri, watahama bila kusurutishwa.
Some of the traders warned that they will resist any attempt to allocate the market land to non-traders, alleging collusion by some individuals within the government to grab part of the land.
Mabwenyenye wa wanasiasa wameshikilia, wako na watu wao bado kwa ground, lakini hata ukiangalia hapa kuna vijana, na vijana wamekuja kutetea kina mama wao. Juu mama wao anasumbuka. Msisahau hata kama mnasema shamba muuzie ama mko na interest hii shamba, kuna ule mtu after hii yote kuna mali tunaenda kuwajibika.
With the tension still high, traders return to the original trading spots, effectively stalling Kenha's operations.
Tumeamkia huzuni leo vile watu wa Kenya wamekuja mpaka na tear gas kupiga watu wa soko. Sasa ukipiga mtu ambaye anatengenezea pesa yake kwa soko, ni vibaya, hawangetumia nguvu hiyo yote. Itaanza kujengwa on March. Na hiyo soko ikishamaliza kujengwa, the genuine traders wataweza kukua located hiyo soko.
Willie Lusige, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Family and friends of the late Father Daniel Raphael Mureithi gathered for a requiem mass at Our Lady of the Rosary Catholic Church in Ridgeways to celebrate the legacy of a man many have termed as devout in his faith and service to God. The late priest, who died early morning on February 2nd, 2026, had served in the ministry of priesthood for nearly 5 decades.
Thursday afternoon at Our Lady of the Rosary Catholic Church, friends and relatives attended the Requiem Mass in honor of the late Father Daniel Raphael Mureithi, who served as a priest in various Catholic parishes for close to 5 decades. Mourners eulogized Father Mureithi as a devout Christian who lived out his faith, loved God, and served his parishioners with utmost dedication. His family has mourned him as a source of wise counsel.
He had a way of making you feel seen, partly because he remembered birthdays, partly because he had this priestly look.
We feel really left out, and we feel that the space he has left, it will never be filled.
Father Daniel Raphael Mureithi was ordained as a priest on August 15, 1976 by the late Bishop Caesar Gatimu of the Nyeri Diocese. He celebrated his first Mass a week later at Kangaita Catholic Church, beginning a lifelong journey of pastoral service. Over the years, he served in several key positions within the church, including at the Bishop's office in Nyeri and later as the Vicar General of Murang'a Diocese. He also worked for 5 years at the Catholic Secretariat in Westlands, Nairobi, contributing to the church's national mission.
And was so devoted to the Holy Rosary, and nothing would distract him from his calling. He would say that his work is to pray, pray, and pray.
For the last 12 years, he was also the chaplain of St. Lord's Hospital in Mwea, where he provided spiritual care and comfort to patients and their families. He was gearing up to celebrate his Golden Jubilee in ministry this August before his untimely demise. Mary Moki, Citizen TV.
May he rest in eternal peace. The government is tonight facing mounting pressure to hold the ongoing recruitment of Kenyans to jobs in Russia, following a rise in cases of families unable to trace loved ones who are lured abroad for work, only to be forced to the front lines of the Russia-Ukraine war. The calls grew louder during a symbolic funeral in Mukurweni, Nyeri County, held to honor 31-year-old Charles Waithaka, one of the victims who lost his life in Russia, whose body could not be retrieved for a proper farewell. Kamau Mongi reports.
Gathered under a heavy cloud of sorrow, Kinuri village in Mukurweni, Nyeri County came together to bid farewell to a man many here remembered for his football prowess. In a painful twist, the burial ceremony in honor of the late Charles Waithaka was held without his body, which could not be retrieved from the battlefields of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Charles Waithaka died on the 25th of December last year, but his body never made the journey home. With repatriation efforts exhausted, his family sought closure through a symbolic funeral, his portrait placed at the center of a tent that would ordinarily shelter his mortal remains.
It pains that someone is living a soft life at the expense of your sweat. May God of angels come through for us. I may not even see your remains, but I'm convinced that I have buried you. I thank God for the years.
Charles, so much has changed since you have gone away. Our hearts are broken into pieces, and we are all devastated.
Similarly, in the absence of a body to lay to rest, the family set aside a special spot where they dug a symbolic grave in his honor, lighting 31 candles, each representing a year of the life he lived. It was during this emotional ceremony, attended by, among others, Russia returnee Duncan Shege, that pressure mounted on the government to halt the continued recruitment of Kenyans to Russia to serve in the military, often under the guise of civilian job offers.
Kama nilikuwa nimedanganywa naenda kazi ya driver. Sasa kufika nikapewa training ya military, na kupewa training ya military hata ukiwaambia mimi sitaki kufanya hii kazi, nataka basi nirudi nyumbani, they force by, yani wanakuforce kabisa uende front line.
Is it possible for over 500 Kenyans to be duped to go to illegal recruitment without the eye of the intelligence? The Kenyan intelligence service is not aware. The Kenyan DCI is not aware. The Kenyan police is not aware. So is the president not properly briefed, or is part of this problem?
The agony of Charles's family, according to Vocal Africa, mirrors the heartbreak of over 70 families across the country, still searching for loved ones who left for Europe in pursuit of greener pastures.
If we do not bring an end to this illegal recruitment into Russian army, then there's no difference between this illegal recruitment and recruitment into Al-Shabaab, ISIS, and Boko Haram.
Sikuwahi patana na Mkenya ama Muafrika mwenye ana fight side ya Ukraine, cause mimi hata sikuwahi fight na Ukraine militaries. Vitu zenye zilikuwa zinatuua na kumaliza watu ni drones and landmines.
Kama Mwange, Citizen TV, Mukurweni, Nyeri County.
Yeah, a very sad story there, and thoughts and prayers with the family of Charles. We are taking a short break here on Tonight. When we come back, we have more stories, including a data point. Coming up, what you need to know and understand about the new NSSF deductions. Data Point breaks it down. 6, which is the figure that you see here, that there were different tiers. Tier 1, the lower limit was 8,000 shillings, and the tier 2 was a limit of 72,000 shillings. That is changing, meaning that in 2026, starting this month, the lower tier will be up to a limit of 9,000 shillings, or tier 1 will be a limit of 9,000 shillings, and the tier 2 is 108,000 shillings. So this is important, and I'll be telling you why, because the NSSF rate is still 6%. So tier 1 will be 6% of your salary of up to 9,000 shillings, and then the balance, which is 108,000 minus 9,000, should your salary be that, then it will also be charged at 6%. I'll tell you why that requires to be different, and also the employer must match that. Let's take a look at what has happened, because in January 2026, that is last month, at tier 1, the salary scale was 8,000 at 6%, which is 480 shillings. The upper limit for tier 2 was 72,000 shillings. So 72,000 shillings minus 8,000 shillings is 64,000. So you apply 6% on 64,000, you get to 3,840. And therefore, that's why the total, the maximum contribution has been 4,320 for every worker in Kenya. Let's take a look at the other slide that shows us what is going to happen in February 2026, which is this month. Tier 1, 9,000. 6% is 540. For tier 2, the limit, if your salary is above 72,000 but not above 108,000, then that will be charged at 6%. So the balance of 108,000 and 9,000 is 99,000. That attracts 5,940, and therefore the contribution in total will be 6,480. But obviously you can tell that tier 1, 540 shillings may go to the NSSF, and the balance of 5,940 may either go to NSSF, or if your employer has procured a private pension scheme, then they can be in a position to send that money there, including a matching figure from the employer themselves. Now, beyond that is that let's take a look at what would happen to the pay slip of a person earning up to 40,000 shillings. So this is the contribution as per tier 1. Remember, maximum of 9,000, 6% is 540. And the employer must match that. So the total contribution for that employee will be 1,080 shillings. For tier 2, it is 1,860 because of 6% of the balance between 9,000 and 40,000. So you get 1,860, and the total contribution by employee is 2,400. The total contribution by employer is 2,400. This may look like it's what you've been doing, because the total still will be 4,800. But in January 2026, because of the difference in the lower limit of tier 1, it was 8,000, meaning that you're contributing 480 shillings, which is the figure you find down there. And the employer, or rather, in tier 2, you are contributing 1,920. So the total is still the same, but differences in the tiers, tier 1 versus tier 2. Let's take a look at what else we can signal in as far as a comparison of what changes for a person earning 80,000 shillings per month. Tier 1 contribution is 540, of course matched by the employer, giving you 1,080, and then tier 2 is 4,260 because you're now doing the math of between 9,000 and 80,000, and you get the total of 4,800. So the total contribution for that employee is 9,600. Remember, January which is last month, the total contribution, the maximum contribution was 4,320, which is the figure that you find there. So there's that difference between 4,800 and 4,320. Let's take a look at something else for someone, the pay slip of a person that earns 80,000 shillings. This is what has changed over time. In January last year, they got a net pay. At the time, of course, considerations were different. They got a net pay of 59,724. In Feb 2025, up until Jan 2026, they got a net pay of 58,212. Now, for this month, that pay will go down by 336 shillings, and they will receive 57,876. And of course, we are assuming that they do not have any other contributions, whether it's to different pension schemes or even insurance deductions, that they get all their money. So that will be the change in terms of the amount they'll be receiving at the end of the day. Let's take a look at a person earning more than 108,000, which is the upper limit. In this case, someone whose salary gross pay is 120,000 shillings. So in January 2025, they took home 86,534. In February 2025 until Jan 2026, they got 85,022 shillings. That's what they took home. This month of February, that take home will reduce by 1,512 because they'll take home 83,510. And obviously this is will also change when it comes to next year. I'll be telling you about that. But also just to emphasize this point, but that Tier 1 contributions must be paid to the NSSF, and Tier 2 contributions can be invested in private pension funds by the employer. But obviously you know that the minimum contribution is 6% as per the law. Finally, to look at what will happen come February 2027, which is next year. Remember that we've said that the maximum consideration is 108,000. Next year, it will rise to 144,000, meaning that people whose salaries are beyond that, they'll pay a deduction of 8,640, which is 6% of 144,000. And this is in line with the reforms that were brought by the NSSF Act of 2013. That's data point for this week. Now to another story. Naivas supermarket on Thursday held its second and final logbook handover ceremony for winners of the Kikwetu campaign at the Naivas head office commercial Eagle Nest Boardroom along Mombasa Road. The ceremony was led by the Naivas Chief Executive Officer Andreas von Plesk, where he handed over logbooks of 6 motorcycles to the campaign winners, marking the close of the Kikwetu campaign and celebrating the impact of rewarding customer loyalty in meaningful, life-changing ways.
Also is to congratulate Naivas for what they have done. So it's a big milestone because me personally, maybe the motorbike, I might use it for my businesses.
I went there not expecting to be a winner, and I was just told that people were clapping all over, I'm a winner, and I was asking them, could I really be a winner of a motorbike? I don't even know how to ride a motorbike. And I was told, yeah, you have won it. I was very happy. I informed my family, and I was hoping to celebrate during Christmas, but now I think this is the perfect time for me to celebrate because I know more blessings are coming.
Our ambition here really was to transform lives, to give customers an opportunity to win some life-transforming prizes, but of course also to have fun while shopping with us, and shopping with us where they had great offers and great everyday prices. The festivities aren't over. Kikwetu is done. However, we've got a big Fagia Fest going on right now. It'll run until the end of Easter. It includes electronics and kitchen and dining, and it's a great opportunity for our customers to receive some phenomenal prices, great promotions, and to use that as gifting, be that Valentine's, Ramadan, or Easter.
Congratulations to the winners, and that brings us to the second break of the bulletin. When I come back, we have more stories in the business world, but remember, Newsgang is back tonight. Relief or partial fix? The Kenya Bankers Association welcomes the plan to exempt low-income earners from payee, but demands fair and proportionate tax cuts across all salary bands.
Nairobi, Shamba la Mawe, the city can eat you alive. Ask me. I came to the city with nothing except ndoto mabegani na matarajio tele moyoni. In the big city, nothing comes easy. You have to grind, learn, and scrub your way to the top. Jasho ni lazima. By having my hands firmly on the steering wheel, I turned every challenge into lesson, hustled twice as hard, ran the distance. Ndio safari kwa barabara ya mafanikio inyooke. Love, passion, grit, and the midnight oil will take you far. Nairobi. I turned the concrete jungle into a foundation, a dream into my story.
Wow. Tifika pa kweli.
Kila safari huanzia chini. MUX, bidii yangu, story yangu. For inquiries, call 0800 724 724.
Redmi Note 15 series comes with free gifts up to Kenya shillings 5,000.
When I have back pain, I reach for 2 tablets of Panadol Extra. With unique Optizop technology, Panadol Extra provides 3 times more pain-relieving power than standard paracetamol for fast relief from strong pain like headache, toothache, and muscle pain, and can get to work in 10 minutes so that I am ready to be there for those who need me. Stronger pain relief at only 20 shillings per pair.
Welcome to Land and Property Diary, your ultimate guide to building, construction, land acquisition, and the latest in interior and exterior design. Join us every week as we explore the fascinating world of real estate, from finding the perfect plot of land to creating your dream home and everything in between. From groundbreaking construction techniques to the latest trends in home decor, Land and Property Diary covers it all. Discover tips from top experts, innovative design ideas, and inspiring success stories.
We started doing this slowly as a hobby, then we grew to the big business that we are now.
Whether you're a home owner, builder, or design enthusiast, this is the show for you. Catch Land and Property Diary every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. on Citizen TV with Naomi Mbuvi.
I'm sure that those men were out to kill Angel and it was because of you. What? Have you gone crazy, Brianna? Stop this!
The Kenya Bankers Association has welcomed the move by the National Treasury to adopt a tax exemption for Kenyans earning 30,000 shillings and below. The bankers' umbrella body is now calling on the government to cut salary taxes by at least 5% across the board, arguing that the move would ease pressure on household incomes and stimulate economic activity. While welcoming recent signals by the Treasury to exempt low-income earners from pay-as-you-earn, the lobby group described the proposal as a weak signal that falls short of addressing the broader tax burden facing workers. Jimmy Mbogo reports.
The Kenya Bankers Association, which has been a long-term proponent of a review of the tax rates in the country, has welcomed the sentiments of the National Treasury to exempt more Kenyans from the pay-as-you-earn tax bracket, saying this is a step in the right direction. The bankers further want the government to ensure fairness by cutting down the tax rate for all income bands by 5% and cap the maximum tax rate on salaries at 30%.
Tax on individual income should not be more than the income tax that we tax on our corporates. So our corporates currently, we have capped it at 30%. And yet for individual income earners, we have gone as high as 35%. That's also the reason as to why we are saying let's be able to live within the law, within the policies that we have actually been able to agree with consultatively. And because the macros are looking good, it's time now to be able now to live up to the spirit of that policy.
The inclusion of those earning up to 30,000 shillings will see the number of salaried Kenyans exempted from the pay tax increase from the current 4% to about 6% of those in formal employment, or about 204,000 Kenyans, a number that the bankers contend is not significant enough to move the needle.
Exempting up to 30,000 earners, it's a good signal, although weak signal. We need to ensure that as a country we become very bold, and that's why as Kenya Bankers Association we are saying the boldness will be in a 5% pay-as-you-earn rate reduction across all the pay-as-you-earn bands.
The association further warns that a partial exemption for low-income earners only may not result in the maximum impact that the policy shift is intended for, but could instead create a crisis in the labour market.
When we come to matters taxation, matters relief, let it apply to all the categories of workers, because it may be good when you look at it, but when you haven't looked at it from an employment perspective and where you're applying it, we may create a crisis that now the companies will have a challenge. And then again, even as a company, you can't go out and increase salary for high income earners and start saying you got a relief. That cannot happen.
Jamie Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
It is a sigh of relief for the country's multi-billion shilling textile and manufacturing industry as the African Growth and Opportunity Act, better known as AGOA, gets a new lease of life. After months of uncertainty, President Donald Trump on Tuesday officially signed an extension retroactively covering the period since the pact lapsed last September, but the fine print suggests that the era of free trade may be shifting toward fair trade under the America First banner. Here now is Jasmine Omboy with the details.
For the nearly 70,000 workers in Kenya's export processing zones, the news from Washington is the ultimate lifeline. The formal signing on February 3rd ensures that a variety of Kenyan products will continue to enter the U.S. market duty-free. The new legislation extends through December 31st this year, and crucially, the deal is retrospective. The U.S. is one of Kenya's most vital trading partners. It accounts for 9% of the country's entire external market. In 2025, Kenya exported $788.6 million worth of goods to the U.S. under this pact. However, the country imported over $930 million back, leaving a sizable trade deficit. In fact, since the year 2000, the U.S. has maintained a cumulative trade surplus of about $1.7 billion with Kenya. The Kenya Association of Manufacturers, while welcoming the move, cautions that the current 16-month extension, which is shorter than the 3 years initially hoped for, is a clear signal that the America First policy is here to stay. The association says the government must move beyond periodic renewals and conclude the Kenya-US bilateral trade agreement to provide long-term stability. And so does the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
We would like government to negotiate a long-term trade agreement with the USA, because a 3-year extension is not enough for long-term investment. And of course, as a country and as a private sector, we'd like to have a much more predictable policy environment and also trade with the largest economy in the world of around $30 trillion US dollars. U.S.
Trade Representative Jamieson Greer has already indicated that the 21st century version of AGOA will demand more from its partners. This could mean that for Kenya to keep its duty-free status after December 2026, it must be prepared to lower its own barriers to U.S. goods. Jasmine Wambui, Citizen TV.
Pyrethrum farmers in Molo, Nakuru County are abandoning the crop due to lack of market for their produce. Speaking in Molo on Thursday morning, the farmers say that the industry that once thrived as supporting households and funding education is now slowly collapsing. Farmers cite years of neglect, poor policies and lack of government support as the main reasons behind the downfall. The crisis has forced many to scale down drastically, leaving behind large tracts of land that once flourished with Pyrethrum. Some have shifted to alternative crops, while others have abandoned Pyrethrum farming altogether.
1962,
nilikuwa nafanya na hii kazi wakati nilikuja hapa the year 1999, tena kaona mmea huu ni mzuri, nikapanda around 25 acres. Saa hii nimerudisha sasa, niko na quota, nimeng'oa yote.
Mara mingi tumepeana ripoti kwa serikali kupitia idara ya kilimo kana kwamba wacha sekta hii ya kilimo iangaliwe, lakini inaonekana hakuna mtu anajali hii maslahi.
Tuliambia serikali ifanye registration ya Pyrethrum in America and Europe. Wameshindwa. Sasa soko ya Pyrethrum ya Kenya imeisha. Tusidanganyane ya kwamba ati kuna soko. Soko imeisha kwa vile mlikosa kuregister Pyrethrum as a product in US and Europe. Kwa hivyo mambo mengi ambayo tunazungumzia hapa ya kusema ati tunataka kufufua mambo ya Pyrethrum, sijui mnataka kuweka, hakuna.
Kenya's private sector is calling on the government to move faster in fixing long-standing barriers that continue to stifle business growth. At the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry KNCCI annual general meeting in Nairobi, business leaders used the platform to push for lower costs, fair taxation and easy access to government opportunities, warning that policy gaps could slow economic recovery. Our reporter Dennis Otieno has the details.
The private sector has once again put the spotlight on the cost of doing business, urging government to create a conducive business environment. Speaking during the KNCCI annual general meeting, business leaders raised concerns over a myriad of challenges, which include high taxation, regulatory bottlenecks, and delayed government payments. Issues they say continue to strain cash flows, particularly for small and medium enterprises.
Licensing and regulatory compliance costs account for 20 to 30% of the small medium enterprises' initial capital expenditure. KNCCI will want to advocate for harmonization and consolidation of the national and county licenses, elimination of duplicate permits, levies and inspections, single window licensing platforms, adoption of one business, one license principle for Kenya.
The meeting heard that access to government procurement remains a major hurdle, with many local firms lacking the capacity and information needed to compete fairly for public tenders.
We also want to see the participation of local companies, especially in getting subcontracts and not only supplies to these PPP projects that you are rolling out in National Treasury.
Government officials present acknowledged the concerns, saying reforms are underway.
We are committed to fostering an enabling business environment through a stable, predictable, and fair tax regime. Our approach to domestic resource mobilization seeks to balance revenue needs with economic growth, competitiveness, and equity.
If we are able to ensure as government that the enabling environment works for our business people, then business will prosper.
The private sector maintains that tangible action and not policy promises will determine whether businesses can thrive in an increasingly challenging economic environment. Dennis Otieno, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Now, Kakamega Homeboys FC has confirmed the death of its defender, Silas Abungana, while undergoing treatment at the Kakamega County General Hospital. In a statement, Homeboys Football Club said Abungana died on Wednesday, February 4th, while receiving treatment. The club disclosed that he succumbed to head injuries he sustained during an attack on Tuesday. Abungana's death comes just days after he featured in Homeboys' match against Mara Sugar on Saturday, January the 31st. He previously played for Shabana FC and Gucha Stars.
Silas, sisi tujawahi kukombana. Sisi hatuna maneno mengi. Kwa nini unasema hata na mimi niko na mtoto wa miezi 4. Silas akajibu akasema, ulikuwa unataka aje? Ulikuwa unataka unifanye nini? Ndiye kijana akaenda kwa nyumba pole pole, akachukua kitu kama kuni, tamu inatoka.
Sema kwamba tumepata shida kubwa sana katika kupoteza huyu kijana. Last game tumekuwa tukicheza hapa na Mara Sugar, amekuwa katika team na aliperform vizuri zaidi. So sisi tumepoteza na watu kama Kakamega County, tuseme Kenya mzima pia tumepoteza.
So far hatujashika, lakini tuko na familia hapa wao, sababu ni jambo ambayo ilifanyika kwa family. Lakini baadhi ya family members, isipokuwa tunaambiwa kijana yule mwenye alimpiga alitoroka.
May he rest in peace. National women's rugby team, the Lionesses, have returned to their base at the RFUA grounds in Nairobi after a 1-week training in Spain ahead of the HSBC Division 2 tournament on February 14th to 15th at the Nyayo National Stadium. Head coach Simon Odongo says the team is working hard to polish both the strengths and the weaknesses ahead of the competition. Captain Sheila Chajira spoke about the pride of playing for Kenya and the excitement of performing on home soil with a full squad back and spirits high. The Lionesses are ready to showcase their skill, teamwork and pride on home soil at the HSBC 7th Division 2, aiming to make their mark in front of a home crowd.
I'm very happy, proud, humbled to be part of the team and also representing that jersey in the world stage. And it's always a privilege to be part of the team.
We are on our Tapa week. We've just returned from camp in Spain. Right now we are focusing on tactical areas that we saw that we struggled in Spain, and also in areas that we were strong at. So just trying to make sure that we polish up on all areas and the team gets ready for the first leg of the 7th tour.
Kenya National Basketball League defending champions Nairobi City Thunder announced Send Up as their new premier sponsor for the 2025-2026 season, while unveiling a refreshed team blending returning stars with fresh talent. The event marks a pivotal moment for the club as they gear up to defend their back-to-back undefeated league titles and compete in their second Basketball Africa League competition.
It's a very exciting partnership because it represents a lot of what Nairobi City Thunder does, and we want to connect with Africans all over the globe and push borders. And so a lot of our values are aligned with Send Up, and we're excited to have them on board as our premier sponsor for the upcoming season.
It's a global brand, and as we grow as Nairobi City Thunder, it's really important for us and significant for us to be partnering with bigger global brands as we, which align with our ambition to be a Pan-African powerhouse and to compete at the Pan-African level.
We're working on that. We hope to have that happen, as well as forming kind of an elite competition team here locally, which would be a mixture of top local players as well as some international players for our BAL team to compete against on a regular basis. We did something similar in our preparations for Elite 16. We felt like it worked really well. We felt well prepared, and so we'll kind of use a similar model in our preparations for BAL.